Welcome to the deep dive. Today, you sent us down a particularly intriguing rabbit hole, the world of Bob Camblin,
Right.
an artist whose life and work are just brimming with fascinating
Oh,
paradoxes.
yeah, absolutely.
We've got a rich collection of your sources here. Excerpts from Bob Camblin quotes and other mysteries, the biography, a YouTube transcript analyzing his painting first sighting, some passages from Zen and the Art of Enlightenment, a review, and a PDF with historical details, reviews, and a really insightful quote from his friend Earl Staley.
It's a great set of materials.
So our mission today is to really unpack all of this and, get to the heart of what makes Bob Camblin so compelling.
Absolutely. Looking at this material, it's clear you're drawn to artists who challenge easy categorization, and Camblin certainly fits that bill.
He really does.
His work seems to invite a deeper kind of engagement, one that rewards careful attention. We're going to sift through these sources together and try to understand the key elements that made him such a unique and thought-provoking figure.
Yeah. Fantastic. So let's dive in. The beginning. Born in Oklahoma in 1928.
Right.
It sounds like his artistic journey started incredibly early, almost by osmosis, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. With both parents being artists, he was immersed in that world from a very young age.
Just surrounded by it.
Yeah, experimenting with different mediums almost as a natural part of growing up.
Yeah.
This early exposure clearly laid a foundational layer for his later explorations.
And then you have his formative years in Ponca City.
During the Marlin Oil boom
Ah.
and then the decline.
Right, that whole cycle.
That boom and bust cycle, that tangible rise and fall of fortune, that feels like a foundational insight into his later artistic focus on impermanence.
Ah.
It's as if those early visual memories of grand ambitions and then eventual decay became a recurring motif, in his exploration of life's fleeting nature, wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Seeing that kind of dramatic shift firsthand must have left a lasting impression.
Definitely.
And it wasn't just the economic landscape, the physical remnants of that era, like the Marland estate.
Mm.
And even the Pioneer Woman statue, they became part of his visual vocabulary.
Right, I saw that mentioned.
Subtly referencing his mother, Viva Camblin, in his later work sometimes. It's like his personal history and the broader societal shifts were all intertwined in his artistic DNA.
Precisely. What's fascinating here is how those grand, almost utopian visions of the oil boom and then their eventual fading could have shaped his artistic sensibility.
A built-in awareness of transience.
Exactly. And it wasn't just the tangible environment. The biography highlights the profound impact of seeing The Wizard of Oz in 1938.
Oh, interesting.
That journey into a world of wonder and the unexpected, that sense of things not always being as they seem, you can almost trace a line from that early cinematic experience to some of the illusions and hidden layers in his later art.
It's like that film opened up a whole realm of imaginative possibilities for him.
It seems like it.
And speaking of formative relationships, his long-lasting friendship with Forrest Harrisberger,
Yeah, starting in high school.
based on, as the biography quaintly puts it, good vibes.
Huh, right. Not just art.
That endured for over 6 decades.
I mean,
They even both enlisted in the Air Force Reserve, activated for the Korean War, thankfully serving stateside in California, where they found time to sketch the coastline together.
that shared act of observation, even in that context,
Yeah.
it must have been significant. It
Yeah.
really underscores the importance of connection and shared experience in shaping an artist's vision. Sketching the coastline together, that's an intimate act of paying attention to the world around them.
And then they both used the GI Bill for art school.
Yeah, the Kansas City Art Institute, they reunited there.
So there was a real synergy in their artistic paths, at least early on,
It seems so.
which sounds like a really fertile period for Camblin. The biography mentions he was a remarkably voracious reader, even during class.
Really?
Yeah. His interests spanned a huge range, from Emerson's essays on self-reliance to the wisdom of the I Ching
Wow.
and the concise beauty of Japanese haiku and haiga.
That blend of Western transcendentalism and Eastern philosophy, that feels really key to understanding the underpinnings of his later artistic philosophy.
Doesn't it?
Absolutely. That early intellectual curiosity, that deep dive into such diverse ways of thinking and seeing the world. It's like he was assembling a unique personal framework of ideas and inspirations that he would continuously draw upon.
Like building a toolkit.
Exactly. His interest in Emerson's self-reliance and the I Ching's focus on change seemed to have fueled his later nomadic period and his embrace of artistic evolution. And the haiku and haiga with their emphasis on capturing profound moments in simple forms. You can see how that might connect to his later exploration of everyday enlightenment, finding deeper meaning in the seemingly ordinary.
Okay, so after getting his BFA and an MBA,
Yeah.
quite the combination,
It is, isn't it?
and getting married, the next pivotal moment seems to be a Fulbright scholarship to Italy for a year.
Ah, yes.
Being immersed in the art of the old masters and the Impressionists, and particularly being drawn to Venice, that must have been transformative.
Italy does seem to have been a watershed moment for him.
Mm-hmm.
The biography specifically notes the profound influence of the Uffizi Gallery in Florence
Yeah.
and the Capuchin catacombs of Palermo.
The catacombs. Wow.
The catacombs, with their preserved figures, provided these striking, abstract, figurative forms that stayed with him. These mummies, as he called them.
Mummies, that's a potent image to carry. What do you think drew him to those specific forms? Was it the sense of preserved history, the macabre, or something else entirely?
That's a great question. It's hard to say definitively, but perhaps it was the way those figures blurred the line between life and death,
Yeah.
the sense of time suspended, maybe,
Mm.
and the almost sculptural quality of their forms.
We do see echoes of that in some of his later figurative work, the sense of something both present and absent.
Exactly. And we see more direct evidence of his Italian experience in paintings like The Birth of Venus,
Yes.
which the biography notes as a tribute to KPFT radio in Houston, referencing the Neoplatonic idea of love.
Which is, remind me.
Well, in essence, viewing love not just as an emotion, but as a fundamental cosmic force that connects all things.
Okay, I see. That fit.
A concept that likely resonated with Camblin's later explorations of interconnectedness. And then there's Flora.
Right. Clearly inspired by Botticelli.
But infused with Camblin's unique symbolic language, hearts, electrons, Hyga, even a red exclamation point and a smile.
So he was already taking these established forms and reinterpreting them through his own very personal lens.
Absolutely. He was in dialogue with art history from the very beginning, but always with his own distinct voice.
And his early exhibitions, Chicago Art Institute, galleries in Rome, Milan, indicate he was already gaining recognition for this unique approach.
Precisely. He's engaging with tradition, but not constrained by it.
Mm-hmm.
The hidden imagery within Flora, for example, really foreshadows his later fascination with layers of meaning, inviting viewers to look beyond the surface.
Then we see a period where he's teaching.
Right. Various institutions, Ringling School of Art, Universities of Illinois, Detroit, Utah.
But in 1976, he makes this really significant decision.
To leave academia.
Yeah, and become a nomadic artist.
It was a radical shift, wasn't it?
Completely, to essentially untether himself from the conventional art world and embrace this peripatetic existence.
Traveling all over.
Funding his travels through art sales and commissions, journeying through Italy, France, Ireland, Mexico, the South Pacific.
Wow.
That kind of direct engagement with different cultures and landscapes must have profoundly impacted his artistic perspective.
Oh, undoubtedly.
What do you think was the driving force behind that decision? Was it purely artistic freedom or maybe a deeper philosophical urge to experience the world directly?
I suspect it was a combination of both. The desire for complete artistic autonomy is a powerful motivator for many artists.
Sure.
But given his intellectual curiosity and his interest in different philosophies, that nomadic period also feels like a deliberate immersion in the world, way of gathering experiences and perspectives that would directly feed his art.
Makes sense. So after these extensive travels, how did these experiences shape his core artistic beliefs?
Well, one of the book excerpts states that his art aimed to connect directly with the viewer's soul.
Bypassing the need for intellectual explanation, that's a pretty ambitious goal.
It is, and it speaks to a desire to create a truly visceral, emotional resonance with the viewer.
Mm-hmm.
The biography notes a stylistic shift around this time, away from those intricate, almost Bruegel-like early drawings,
Okay.
towards a greater exploration of organic forms and natural landscapes. That's according to Charlotte Moser.
And Eleanor Freed observed his deep fascination with the life cycle and metamorphosis.
Yeah, which manifested in his incredibly detailed drawings.
And he became known for this fascinating technique of blending drawing and watercolor.
Creating these illusionistic and multi-layered works.
Yeah, the Texas Overview source even draws a parallel to William Wiley's wordplay.
Suggesting a similar kind of conceptual density and layering. That layering is absolutely central to his artistic approach.
Yeah.
And then you have the emergence of his mouches volantes in the 1970s.
Ah, the flying flies.
Exactly. Inspired by Dada and surrealism, these were characterized by seemingly random dots and dashes that coalesce into optical illusions.
Like Escher or Dali.
Yeah, comparisons are drawn there. What's fascinating here is that it actively engages the viewer in the very act of perception.
Almost requiring their participation to complete the image.
Precisely. What specific ideas about perception or reality do you think he was trying to convey through this technique, beyond just engaging the viewer?
It feels like he was trying to highlight the subjective nature of reality, how our minds actively construct what we see.
Uh-huh.
The Mushas Volantes almost force us to confront the act of seeing itself, reminding us that what we perceive isn't necessarily a fixed truth, but something our brains actively interpret and organize.
That's a really insightful way to look at it. And then there's his consistent use of anonymity.
Right. Often signing works as anonymous or anonymous artists.
He even adopted the guise of Mr. Peanut for a time.
Mr. Peanut, really?
Apparently so, before going fully anonymous. That's quite a powerful statement about collective expression and the deliberate submergence of the individual ego.
That's a fascinating take. Could it also be interpreted as a commentary on the art market's obsession with the artist persona? A way of shifting the focus purely to the artwork itself?
That's a compelling point.
Yeah.
It definitely challenges the cult of the individual artist that often dominates the art world. And his drawings often incorporated text in really unexpected ways.
Yeah, sometimes as clues, sometimes seemingly unrelated to the image, or even just as abstract shapes.
It sounds like he was constantly pushing the boundaries of how we interact with art, questioning the relationship between words and images.
Which the biography links to the influence of Tom Wolfe's The Painted Word.
Right, highlighting his awareness of how language can shape or even distort the perception of art.
By incorporating text in such a multifaceted way, he's almost creating these visual linguistic puzzles that demand our active participation to decipher.
Exactly. And speaking of puzzles, the book review of The Art of Everything mentions that he saw his artwork as puzzles to be solved.
Sometimes even including simple canons and intentional traps or dead ends.
Yeah, designed to encourage deeper exploration. It's as if he's inviting us into a game of visual and conceptual discovery.
Playful, but also profound engagement with the work.
Right.
It sounds incredibly engaging, almost like an intellectual treasure hunt embedded within the art itself. And this aligns perfectly with his aim to question popular expectations of reality, pushing beyond the boundaries of surrealism by incorporating surprise, unexpected juxtapositions, and those deliberate non sequiturs, as the biography points out.
It's interesting to trace the evolution of his style. The biography mentions his early works in the 1950s often involved social protest,
With those heavy outlines and flat colors.
a clear engagement with the social realities of his time. He later moved towards combining social realism with non-objectivity to depict subjective human symbols.
Drawing inspiration from artists like Cremoni and Etruscan terracotta figurines.
Exactly. It's a real testament to his constant experimentation and stylistic exploration.
And the biography also highlights his shift towards making large-scale drawings that were ends in themselves.
Incorporating visible corrections
Right.
like white gouache and pasted paper.
Making the process part of the final artwork. His descent from the cross is mentioned as particularly remarkable.
Right, imbued with personal symbols. So you see this ongoing process of refinement and reinvention. And in the 1960s, there was this deliberate effort to blend the poetic suggestions of Hugo van der Goes with the emotional intensity of Goya.
Even employing applied paper that would age naturally to these subtle beige tones.
Yeah, adding another layer of temporal depth to the work. A series of masks is given as another key example of his innovative use of applied paper.
It's fascinating how he incorporated not just visual elements, but also the element of time into his artistic process.
Definitely.
And then in the 1970s, during his time in Houston,
The biography says he aimed to transform art's subjective, symbolic, and even decorative functions into something more mystical.
deeply exploring themes of the life cycle, metamorphosis, the fundamental mysteries of existence.
With recurring imagery like puppets, scarecrows, skulls, and these intriguing, murky water reliquaries.
Perhaps influenced by writers like Kazantzakis and Günter Grass?
Possibly. He really encouraged viewers to bring their own interpretations to the work, drawing on principles of Gestalt psychology.
Which emphasizes how our brains tend to perceive wholes rather than just the sum of individual parts, right?
Exactly, meaning viewers would naturally create their own complete interpretations. He was actively inviting that personal connection. And by the 1980s, his interweaving of drawings and watercolors created these incredibly illusionistic deep surfaces that hinted at hidden images.
only becoming visible through a very sensitive and prolonged engagement with the artwork.
The biography even mentions how these hidden images could emerge unexpectedly years later, rewarding long-term observation.
It's like his art had its own internal clock, revealing secrets over time. That sense of delayed discovery is really compelling.
Isn't it?
Now, let's shift our focus to first sighting.
Okay.
The YouTube transcript and the excerpt from Zen and the Art of Enlightenment both center on this particular painting,
Which depicts a seemingly tranquil, forested waterway.
with a figure subtly concealed within the landscape.
Right. This painting really seems to embody so many of the themes we've been discussing.
It does. At first glance, it presents this serene, almost idyllic, natural scene.
But with a more mindful gaze, the viewer begins to discern a woman seamlessly integrated into the environment.
It truly requires a deliberate act of seeing beyond the initial impression.
And this is where the connection to Zen mindfulness and the I Ching becomes so relevant. The video transcript beautifully articulates how the painting visually embodies the Zen teaching of seeing beyond superficial appearances and recognizing the fundamental unity of all things.
The hidden figure serves as a constant reminder that profound truths often lie just beneath the surface.
Unnoticed if we're not truly present.
And the I Ching's hexagram 21,
Which translates to contemplation or looking, is brought into the discussion, representing the act of turning our attention inward in order to perceive deeper outward truths.
so the viewer's very act of discovering the hidden woman in the painting becomes an enactment of Guan.
Exactly. The river in the painting is also interpreted as a potent symbol of life's continuous flow and change. And the hidden figure represents those often overlooked elements and essential truths that exist within our own lives.
And style itself.
It's described as evoking the atmosphere of symbolism with its mystical undertones and veiled meanings,
Okay.
while also sharing affinities with surrealism through the use of optical illusions and encouraging multiple interpretations.
Yet it remains grounded in a sense of natural realism.
Right. And that integration of the human form within the natural world also strongly resonates with traditional Eastern art aesthetics.
So thematically, Camblin seems deeply fascinated by these inherent paradoxes made visible.
The traps that don't trap, structures that don't move, as that review of The Art of Everything so succinctly puts it.
That review really does capture some of the core paradoxes he explored.
The interplay between illusion and perception, the constant meditation on the fleeting nature of impermanence, and his exploration of the concept of traps, not just physical constraints, but also the self-imposed limitations of fear and the relentless march of time.
Alongside the enduring power found in stillness.
Right. His art truly functions as a series of profound questions posed to the viewer, rather than offering definitive answers.
Absolutely. The recurring themes of interconnectedness, this idea of everyday enlightenment.
Finding moments of profound understanding in the most unexpected and ordinary places.
Yeah, the acceptance of impermanence as a fundamental aspect of reality, the crucial importance of self-inquiry.
And that conscious resistance to jumping to quick conclusions, instead choosing to linger in the space of ambiguity.
These all weave their way through the various sources you've shared. This idea of everyday enlightenment could be seen in his focus on seemingly mundane objects or landscapes that, upon closer inspection, reveal deeper truths.
Much like finding profound insight in a simple haiku. It's a philosophy of active engagement, a call to participate more fully, both with the artwork and with the world around us.
Okay, now let's delve into his time in Houston.
Right. He moved there in 1969.
And forged these really significant artistic partnerships with Earl Staley and Joe Tate. Their collaborative events and exhibitions with wonderfully evocative names like the Tattoo Generic at Joe Tate's backyard, the camping show.
Sounds like fun.
They sound like they were intentionally challenging traditional notions of what art could be, really emphasizing the artistic process itself over the creation of a fixed, finished product.
The biography mentions their collaborative venture B&E Productions.
Right.
What's particularly significant here is that recurring theme of the submergence of the individual ego in the act of collaboration.
Echoing that embrace of anonymity we discussed earlier.
Exactly. He also dedicated time to teaching at Rice University and later at St. Thomas University.
And his friendship with Earl Staley appears to have been especially deep and enduring.
Staley even credits Camblin with teaching him how to draw and paint during their time working together in the studio.
Wow.
Yeah.
But it sounds like his relationship with teaching was somewhat complex, as he eventually chose to leave academia again.
It seems so.
And Earl Staley's description of Camblin's studio on Wad Drive after his divorce as this almost mythical wizard's den.
Filled with all sorts of curious and intriguing objects. It really paints a vivid picture of his personality and his unique creative environment.
It does. It suggests a mind constantly at work, a collector and curator of the unusual, finding inspiration in the everyday and the extraordinary.
Mm-hmm. In his later years, he moved to Oregon and then Louisiana with his wife, Nancy.
And unfortunately became quite disconnected from his friends in Houston.
Yeah, that's sad. His brief return visit before his passing sounds like it was a somewhat uncomfortable and strained experience.
And it's a shame that the attempts to organize a museum show of his work in Houston didn't come to fruition.
Yeah, really unfortunate.
At least there was a frame shop show held after he suffered a stroke, which helped to support him and Nancy.
That's something. It's clear from Earl Staley's recollections that he deeply valued their friendship, remembering Camblin as a gifted storyteller and a truly significant creative force within the Houston art scene.
And the quotes included in that historical info PDF really provide additional facets to his complex character.
Right, Pete Gershon calling him a mystical trickster figure ripe for rediscovery.
I like that. And George O. Jackson Jr. saying engaging with his art is like reading a book.
Implying that depth and narrative quality. Petty Serling highlights his questioning nature and collaborative spirit.
Even Carolyn Farb offers the perspective that his art is primarily autobiographical.
And the Southwestern Historical Quarterly Review notes the biography's success in balancing his art and personal life.
So all these voices collectively contribute to a richer understanding of his enduring legacy.
Yeah.
So, as we bring our deep dive to a close, Bob Camblin really stands out as this deeply thoughtful and observant artist, constantly engaging with the world around him, both the seen and the unseen. His body of work, spanning such diverse styles and mediums, consistently extends an invitation to us, the viewers, to look more intently, to exercise patience, and to really challenge our preconceived notions about what art is, and perhaps even what reality itself might be.
Precisely. From those fleeting poetic fragments captured in his notebooks that we glimpsed in Quotes and Other Mysteries, offering these little windows into his inner world, to the deliberately concealed figures within his paintings, he consistently encourages us to become active participants in the very act of seeing and striving for deeper understanding.
And for you, with your appreciation for gaining knowledge that's both thorough and efficient, and your enjoyment of those rewarding aha moments, Camblin's work presents this incredibly fertile ground for exploration. His unique synthesis of philosophical inquiry, artistic innovation, and deeply personal experience offers so many different points of entry, promising that ongoing sense of discovery that you find so valuable.
It certainly sounds like it. This exploration of Camblin's artistic journey really leaves us with a final provocative thought, doesn't it?
Oh.
Given his profound fascination with the hidden dimensions of reality and his belief that you weren't really playing the game if you possessed too much knowledge up front,
Right.
it makes you wonder, what other aspects of our lives beyond the realm of art might also hold similar hidden layers of meaning, just waiting to be uncovered if we approach them with a more contemplative and less hurried gaze?